Asterisk, asterisk. When choosing yourself becomes the most faithful thing you can do. Asterisk, asterisk. I want to tell you about a woman whose work is quietly dismantling one of the most dangerous myths Black women have ever been taught. Her name is Teresa Daniels, and she is not just a voice in the wilderness, she is a lantern in the dark for women who have spent their entire lives being told that their worth is measured by how much they sacrifice, how much they endure, how much they give until there is absolutely nothing left. Teresa has walked through seasons where she felt invisible, unheard, emotionally shattered, and yet she made a choice that changed everything. She chose herself. She rebuilt her life, deepened her relationship with God, and became a healthier, stronger, softer version of the woman she was always meant to be. And today I am going to share the insights from our conversation because honestly, they might just save your life. Let me start with something that might sting a little. Your worth does not decrease when you stop over giving. I know that sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but for so many of us, especially Black women who have been raised in the church, raised in communities that celebrate sacrifice, raised to believe that love is measured by how much of yourself you pour out until there is nothing left. This truth feels revolutionary. It feels dangerous. It feels like permission we were never given. Teresa shared with me that for years, she believed her value was tied to how much she could carry, how many people she could fix, how many problems she could solve, how many times she could show up, even when her own tank was bone dry. And here is the thing, research backs this up. Many Black women have been socialized into what scholars call the superwoman schema or the strong Black woman role, where self sacrifice is not just encouraged, it is expected. It is seen as proof of love and strength. But here's what the data also shows, this pattern is directly linked to chronic stress, burnout, anxiety, depression, and emotional exhaustion. The very thing we were told would make us strong is actually breaking us down. So let me say it again, slower this time, because I need you to hear it. Your worth does not decrease when you stop overgiving. You can love your family, your community, your work, your church deeply, passionately, faithfully without abandoning yourself. You can serve God with your whole heart and still protect your peace. You can be a good woman, a faithful woman, a loving woman, and still say no. You can honor your calling without losing your mind, your health, or your joy. Now, I want to tell you about a group of women who decided to test this truth. Dr. Stacy McCall Martin, a Black woman clinician and researcher, developed a 6-week Christian faith integrated mindfulness group for Black women experiencing chronic stress. It was hosted at the View Church in Menifee, California, and it centered women who felt constantly responsible for others, family, church, work, and were spiritually devoted yet emotionally depleted. These women walked into that room carrying what so many of us carry, constant caregiving, emotional labor for everyone else, difficulty resting or saying no because of guilt and expectations, spiritual commitment that, in practice, often blended faith with self neglect. They reported chronic stress, exhaustion, and a lack of permission to prioritize themselves even as they served their families and churches faithfully. But here's what happened when they were given space to rest, to breathe, to practice Christian contemplative prayer, to engage with Sabbath theology, to sit in a circle with other women who understood their burdens. The group showed a highly significant, very large increase in participants' confidence in applying Christian contemplative practices. Women reported greater peace, more willingness to schedule time for rest and spiritual reflection, and a clear understanding that serving others does not require losing themselves. One of the most powerful themes that emerged was what Dr. McCall Martin called permission to practice. Women realizing they are allowed to rest and care for themselves. Another theme was naming what was unnamed, finally putting language to their stress, pain, and overfunctioning. And then there was community as restoration, experiencing healing in a circle of women who share similar burdens. This is what Teresa has been teaching us all along. Rest, boundaries, and self devotion are not selfish, they are spiritual, they are necessary for healing. Choosing yourself is not rebellion against God, it is stewardship of the woman God created you to be. Let me tell you about Samantha Gregory, founder of Self Care Oasis. Samantha is a Black woman who publicly shares her story of burnout, chronic stress, and losing herself in relationships, parenting, and career. She describes being chronically stressed, giving emotionally and physically to others while ignoring her own needs. She lost her sense of identity in motherhood, work, and relationships, defining herself solely by what she did for others. And the cost was real. She developed serious health consequences, including premature ovarian failure associated with prolonged stress and depletion. Samantha talks about being brainwashed into believing her role was to fix, soothe, and support everyone else, even as her own life was unraveling. But then she made a decision. She chose what she calls radical selfishness, which in her framing means making her well being non negotiable, putting her care at the top of her priorities. She established rest practices, taking naps, slowing down, carving out time that is not available to anyone else. She pursued emotional and spiritual healing through therapy, journaling, shadow work, and deep self reflection. She conducted an ongoing audit of relationships, obligations, and beliefs to identify what was harmful or depleting, then replaced those patterns with healthier alternatives. And through this process, Samantha reclaimed her sense of self and identity beyond caregiving and fixing others. She rebuilt her life around choices that honor her physical, emotional, and spiritual health. She created Self Care Oasis, a platform and resource hub that encourages other Black women to adopt radical self care and self devotion as everyday practices. Her story demonstrates that choosing yourself after burnout can lead to healthier relationships, stronger emotional resilience, and more grounded spiritual lives. It is not a betrayal of others, it is a return to the woman God always intended you to be. Now, I want to talk about Dr. Janice Beal, a Black woman psychologist and author who wrote a book called I Stopped to Take Care of Me. Her work addresses a familiar pattern among Black women, being taught to be strong, reliable, and self sacrificing without being taught how to rest. Confusing spiritual devotion and service with unhealthy self neglect, believing that to be a good woman or believer means always putting others first. Carrying emotional burdens that manifest as anxiety, depression, burnout, and chronic stress, often silently. Dr. Beal draws a clear distinction between sleep and rest. She teaches that sleep restores the body, while rest restores the mind, emotions, and spirit. She frames rest as intentional, spiritual, and necessary, not lazy or selfish. She encourages readers to separate faith from self neglect. You can love God and people deeply while maintaining healthy boundaries and self care. Her work provides Black women with language and permission to step out of constant overfunctioning and into healthier rhythms of life. A framework to see prioritizing self care as a faith aligned act of stewardship rather than a betrayal of community or family. Practical exercise and reflections that help women implement new habits of rest, emotional honesty, and boundary setting. This is the message Teresa carries with her everywhere she goes. It is never too late to rebuild. Healing is a process, not a moment. Even after seasons of feeling alone, unheard, and emotionally broken, Black women who embrace radical self care Therapy, community support, and honest reflection about their lives are able to reconstruct identities rooted in purpose, faith, and wholeness. The decision to rebuild spiritually, emotionally, and practically is available at any age and any stage. You do not have to wait until you are completely broken to start choosing yourself. You do not have to wait until your body shuts down, until your relationships fall apart, until you cannot recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. You can start today. Teresa told me something I will never forget. She said that for years, she thought choosing herself meant abandoning everyone else. But what she discovered was that choosing herself allowed her to love others more fully, more freely, more sustainably, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot lead from a broken foundation. You cannot serve God with your whole heart if you are running on fumes. You are not less faithful because you rest. You are not less loving because you set boundaries. You are not less strong because you ask for help. In fact, you are more aligned with the woman God created you to be when you honor your own needs, when you protect your peace, when you choose yourself without guilt or apology. This is your soft girl era. This is your sacred pause. This is your permission slip to rest, to heal, to rebuild, to become the woman God always intended, without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. So here is what I am asking you to do. Not next month, not when things calm down, not when everyone else is okay. Now, set one loving boundary this week where you usually say yes out of obligation. Pause, pray, answer honestly. This might mean declining a request, delaying a favor, or asking for help instead of automatically fixing someone else's problem. Schedule intentional rest, not just sleep. A quiet hour with God, a walk, journaling, or stillness, where your only assignment is to be present with yourself and with God. Name one area where you feel emotionally depleted: family, work, church, caregiving, and commit to creating a small practical change. Delegate a task, seek counseling, join a supportive community of women. The shift Teresa's inviting you into is simple but radical. Start living as if your life, health, and joy truly matter, because they do. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to tell you that you have done enough, that you have sacrificed enough, that you have earned the right to rest. You already have that right. God gave it to you the moment you were born. Choose yourself, not because you are selfish, not because you do not care, but because you are worthy of the same love, care, and devotion you so freely give to everyone else. And when you do, you will discover something beautiful. You will discover that the woman you have been searching for, the woman you have been trying to become, has been waiting inside you all along. She is soft, she is strong, she is faithful, she is free, and she is ready to live.